Right.
One take one.
I like it from here. Yeah, that's what I think.
You don't have to just sit here and take that.
Sit there. Sit here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good girl.
Okay. Mash builder. Okay. And action.
So Theo, tell us about Civil Taxis, please.
Well, Civil Taxis is a company that I've started, and it is in the business of transforming and also formalizing the taxi industry. It is more than anything an attempt, but we believe that we've got a working formula. So our mission here is to revolutionize the industry to such a point where we deliver great customer service for the regular taxi commuter, as well as a safe and comfortable taxi ride. We also want to provide, I guess, with regards to the commuters, we'd like for it to be a preferable means of transport. So while there's buses upgrading, excuse me, while there's buses, there's trains, there's airlines, and we are in now this world that we're in that's technologically inclined. I think the taxi industry is a bit behind. So that's this idea came along. As well as that, a lot of taxi drivers are exploited, I believe, when it comes to their labor. So we want to give them job security and a more permanent and stable position.
And how is this going to work? Because I know the taxi industry is quite, you say it's quite informal right now, but then it has its structures. Have you approached these structures, and what has been the response?
Yeah, currently we are working with 2 associations to run our pilot, and they have welcomed it. In fact, they have dedicated 100 of their taxis for us to pilot with. It's the taxi associations in Alexandra, it's Amster and Atta. And yeah, they have welcomed it, and they believe it would be a working formula. They are.
So are we talking about a standard salary for like all taxi drivers?
Yes.
And is this pilot currently operational?
Okay, so at the moment, like I said, we do have the structures in place. We've got the 100 taxis. We've got some of the background employees already ready to proceed. We've got 20 drivers in which we are currently in training with to train them on customer service. And you asked a question with regards to a permanent salary. Yes, we do give them a permanent salary, as well as benefits such as medical aid, funeral cover, disability cover. But most importantly, we give them a credit record and history. So now they're able to apply for credit. They could get a bond for a house, they could get credit for a car. So that's how we try to give back to the taxi drivers more than anything.
So I know this is more about especially improving the quality of service that people do get from taxi drivers and the taxi industry. What is the vision? How do you see transforming the industry?
Well, the vision, more than anything, I see it as to one day get to a level where a middle class or an upper class person who actually drives a car decides and chooses to leave their car at home to actually use one of our taxis. So we want to get to a level where Uber is, so to speak, but using minibus taxis, where you can choose to be in this taxi because you are treated well, you are comfortable, and you've got Wi-Fi in the taxi. Plus, it's cheaper going from point A to point B with a taxi rather than you using your car rather than petrol. You know, so we want to get to a level where we own as many taxis as possible, because there are over 300,000 registered taxis in South Africa, and we'd love to go into the major cities as well as the long distance taxis, as well as cover basically the whole of South Africa. So yeah, I believe we are on the right path at the moment, and yeah, I guess I hope that answers your question.
And what inspired you to start this business?
More than inspiration, I think it was circumstance. I found myself in a situation where I was in a taxi, and the taxi driver, or rather somebody, one of the passengers didn't have enough money, or rather his change wasn't enough when it came back to him, And an argument started and brewed within the taxi, and the taxi driver decided to stop the taxi in the middle of the highway. And this guy literally said nobody's going anywhere up until this guy gets his money, you know. And at that moment in time, I just felt
Can I
like
stop you real quickly? Sorry.
Sure.
Can we take that again on the
Yes.
kind of the
Noise.
that was massive noise.
Okay. Yeah, start.
Okay.
The inspiration.
Yeah, that question. Because the others you can work with still, so. And action.
Thea, what inspired you to start this business?
I think more than inspiration, it was more of a circumstance. One day, traveling from work in a taxi, I found myself in a taxi where one of the passengers didn't receive his full change. And it then started into a little fight in the taxi. And then the taxi driver decided to stop the taxi in the middle of the highway somewhere. And he then decided nobody's going home up until this person receives their money. So at that moment in time, I felt like he has all the power. The power is in the taxi driver's hand, and there's nothing that we can do. Yet we are the ones that put food on his table, you know. So I guess at that point I was thinking more of the unfriendliness of the industry, and thus I thought to myself, there should be something that we can do about this, because I know you can complain via the taxi associations, but you still see the same person out on the road the next day doing the same thing. So thus this idea came about to say, hey, how do we not only help this taxi driver, but as well as that be able to reprimand him if he had to treat people in a certain way. Thus we have our training, thus we have all the benefits that we give them, but as well as that there's the formality of your whole written warning, verbal warning that we have in the corporate world.
And has it been easy?
No, not at all. But I'll tell you something. Funny enough, I expected the taxi industry and the taxi operators to be the difficult ones when it comes to making this a reality. However, they have been they have been participating, they've been very, very supportive for this to happen. The difficulty is where we supposed to be speaking to media companies and other corporate companies, because we are selling ad space within the taxis, and that's how we actually make our money to be able to pay our drivers and all of that. So the difficulty has been there, because I can't say I know exactly what's going on with regards to that, because it's been different experiences, but it hasn't been easy at all. But yeah, we are working on it. We are getting somewhere.
And what would your advice be for young entrepreneurs who want to start businesses now, considering the tough economic climate that we're in?
I'll say start now. Start now, regardless of what the surroundings look like. Whether you're in a rural area, whether you're kokasi, whether you are in a suburb, whether you are in a job, whether you're looking for a job, start now. And by starting now, I mean like you already have the idea. What I mean is start writing it down, start putting it on paper. And the more you put it on paper, trust me, the next step will come naturally. You won't have to ask, so what now? It will come to you. So yeah, start now.
Great.
Okay.
I think I'm covered.
Do you mind signing out?
No.
Beautiful. Okay. Signing out, take one.
Okay. Thank you, Theo.
Thank you.
Slindelo Masigan for Jacaranda FM News in Johannesburg.
Lovely.